Bueno, muchísimas gracias por recibirnos a nosotros. Yo soy Adria Baker. Me pueden decir Adriana porque me sale en español más rápido así, Adriana, pero me da tanto gusto de conocerlos y gracias por tenernos a nosotros aquí con nosotros con ACOFI. Es un honor de estar con la Asociación Colombiana de Facultades de Ingeniería y ojalá que pudiéramos estar en la Universidad de la Sabana. Nos encantaría estar con ustedes en persona. Siento mucho que está, bueno, de corazón ahí estamos con ustedes. I'm going to introduce my amazing colleagues too who will be presenting. First, I was going to open up for about 15 minutes and then I'm going to give it over to Elmira Ganiyeva, who is Rice University's manager and senior international advisor, who manages all of our international graduate student programming and provides supports to the need of international graduate students. Works here with me. She does orientation, academic, and immigration advising, processing, all kinds of work authorization. And she is originally from Kazakhstan. She did her undergraduate and graduate work in Kazakhstan, Belgium, and Spain. And she, before she came to Rice, she was working with the U.S. diplomatic mission in Kazakhstan for 8 years. She's fluent in Kazakh and Russian, and it's an honor to have her, that we work together side by side. And then after your break, we had planned for Agnes Ho. She's a licensed master level social worker in Texas and a registered social worker in Hong Kong. She's originally from Hong Kong, came to the United States also as an international student, and she has risen to such high respect and regard here at Rice University. She got her bachelor's degree and honors in social work in the City University of Hong Kong. And she's the director of our Student Wellbeing Office for the past 10 years. She's worked in government as well as a nonprofit with mental health crisis intervention, professional training, child abuse and domestic violence, and to support youth and young adults' health and well-being. And she speaks Cantonese and Mandarin, and it is an honor to work with both of them. So without more ado, I'm going to go ahead and continue with my presentation. Perdón. Gracias por recibirnos. Lo que tenemos pensado es de hablar rapidito, de hablar de nuestra universidad que está en Houston, Texas, Rice University, y ahí los invitamos. Ese es el edificio principal donde estoy yo. Y luego vamos a hablar de los estudiantes internacionales, porque es lo en que yo trabajo. Yo soy la directora ejecutiva y también the Associate Vice Provost for International Education aquí en la universidad. Y luego vamos a hablar de syndrome, imposter syndrome, y luego lo que hacemos nosotros para ayudarles a ellos. Nosotros tenemos una universidad global. O sea, es impresionante que tenemos más de 26% de los estudiantes vienen de otros países y generalmente una universidad que tienen, o sea, internacionales es como 10%. Así que nosotros de verdad queremos mucho a los internacionales y hemos crecido la población colombiana y estamos felices de eso y queremos seguir creciendo las relaciones con ustedes, con las universidades en Colombia. Y luego hemos recibido premios por trabajo internacionalización. Es una universidad privada, usted ve el mapa donde está Houston. Es una universidad privada comprensiva que empezó más de 110 años. Tenemos un pregraduado como Residential College System y top rankings. Y también tenemos 2 premios Nobel. Y bueno, está cerca. Somos parte del Medical Center, que es el centro médico más grande del mundo. Bueno. Tengo problemas de avanzar, perdón. Ok. Y bueno, ¿y quiénes son los internacionales? Ellos son, o sea, pregrado, posgrado, exchange students, en inglés intensivo. Y bueno, y luego tenemos muchos scholars los que hacen investigación, bueno, y grupos invitados especial internacionales. De los posgrados tenemos casi 1,700 estudiantes internacionales del nivel posgrado. En la universidad somos casi 50% posgrado y 50% pregraduado. Casi, no todavía, pero va a ser pronto. Y luego, hablando del ciclo de vida de un estudiante internacional, bueno, eso es todo estrés. Bueno, empezamos con Javi, eso es muy tipo tejano. Así que yo soy del norte de Texas y soy muy tejana. Entonces, como un modismo para bienvenidos, hola. Pero ya tratando de seguir una visa y luego, sobreviviendo un lugar y educación nuevo, los primeros días y el primer semestre son dificilísimos y abrir un departamento, banco y bueno, todo diferente, estudiar otro idioma, otra cultura. Pero luego ya cuando los middle years, que son más como tenemos, bueno, tienen que preocuparse de las pasantías en otro país y regresando a sus casas a ver cómo están las familias en sus países y tratando de trabajar, estudiar, preparar para los exámenes, qualifying exams. Y luego en los últimos años tiene que preocuparse de publicaciones y experimentos y familia y presiones personales y bueno. Y después el último semestre, el último año que es súper difícil para todos, como ustedes ya saben, de terminar todo, de manejar el comité, la defensa del doctorado y luego encontrar un trabajo y moverse. Bueno, son muchas cosas con quien ellos tienen que preocuparse. Pero más de eso, esos años de la pandemia fue dificilísimo para nuestros internacionales porque todo, los consulados se cerraron por meses, los vuelos cancelaron, ellos quisieron regresar a ver a sus familias, que tal vez ellos se enfermaban y en sus países y luego las leyes de inmigración fueron muy fuertes aquí los últimos años y bueno, ya se va más o menos tranquilizando. Pero luego las clases, que faltaban clases, porque bueno, si estaban online, no online, y muchos de los bueno, que no podían conseguir una visa de Colombia por años, por meses, perdón. Y luego, de enfermarse, y luego si los vuelos se cancelaron, y luego encontraron la clase porque las leyes exigían que tomaban unas clases, ciertos números de clases en persona, cuando la universidad no estaba en persona, y los cambios, y cuarentena, y luego haciendo pasantías adentro de los Estados Unidos con remoto, que no remoto, que bueno. Y luego, de todos modos, llegando a una cultura nueva y que faltaba un poco de tiempo de practicar su inglés y la cultura. Entonces, los que vinieron aquí en los años, 2020 hasta 2022, estuvieron aquí como estudiantes full time, pero realmente no tenían la experiencia cultural. Todo eso fue mucho difícil. Y luego algunos que no podían venir, que estaban estudiando remoto de sus países y tal vez eran de una hora en la noche. Para nosotros fue en la mañana, pero tal vez en la noche para ellos, o pasando medianoche, y bueno, pobres, y luego esperando más de un año para una visa, y luego xenofobia, que no sé cómo lo dice en español, no sé si es lo mismo, pero bueno, entonces, y luego la estancia y social distance, y todo eso fue más para los internacionales. Pero además de eso, nosotros tratamos de que, reunirnos con todo lo que tenían que preocuparse, que es del lenguaje, de sentirse solos, las familias, finanzas, visas, pasantías, xenofobia, las leyes, impuestos, amigos, adjustment, no sé qué la palabra adjustment, como ajustarse, no sé, y el trabajo, buscando trabajo aquí y todo, bueno. ellos, de todos modos, nosotros hicimos muchas cosas para que ellos pudieran hacer como relaciones, amigos, aunque estuviéramos afuera. Y ahí se ve algunos de los colombianos que son buenísimos aquí haciendo un doctorado y estudios posgrado aquí. Pero ¿qué fue que una cosa que hicieron? Vemos que los estudiantes que regresan con lo que pueden hacer y ayudar o sea, como voluntario o algo así, que ellos como que realmente tienen una experiencia mejor que nada, que no es simplemente estar en el laboratorio haciendo experimentos, escribiendo, pero que salgan y ayudar a otra gente. Por ejemplo, aquí tenemos los brasileros ayudando con los de aquí, de portugués. Tenemos algunos latinos aquí que estaban ayudando, enseñando de sus países a la gente que realmente le falta, o sea, que aprenden diferentemente. Tenemos gente que donaba, o sea, con la comida, bueno, y también con la investigación que ellos traen sus perspectivas diferentes. Rapidito, y yo voy a mandarle, doctor Daniel, este chart, que eso fue como 10 años, lo hicimos hace 10 años y luego después, 10 años después, y casi salió lo mismo, que fueron las cosas, los estudiantes nos decían cuáles son las cosas que les dan lo más estrés, y aquí lo tenemos como en grupos, de los estudiantes que ellos representaron, o sea, respondieron. Y luego de los como soluciones que ellos dijeron que es mejor para ellos, de como una manera de quitar el estrés que ellos tuvieron. Y luego de mi oficina, los de OISS, Oficina de Estudiantes Internacionales y Scholars Internacionales, que cuáles son las cosas por tanto tiempo que estuvieron aquí trabajando con internacionales, cuáles son las cosas, o sea, recomendaciones de ellos. Y luego pedimos al centro de counseling, de consejeros y well-being, si pudieran, well-being no está escrito. Si ellos pudieran decirnos cuáles son sus recomendaciones. Y voy a mandar eso a todos para que lo puedan tener, porque yo creo que tienen muy buenas, como algunas cosas que tal vez podrían ayudarles a ustedes, porque realmente escuchando la presentación antes, vi que realmente las cosas son casi iguales, que nosotros tenemos que preocuparnos igual como ustedes, como todos. Pero también, como ya les dije, tratando de que los estudiantes tengan una vida afuera del programa posgrado. Sí, tenemos que siempre apoyar el programa académico y es lo más número uno, pero luego que tengan relaciones, que se meten en la cultura de las cosas. Aquí tenemos cosas fotos de cuando los estudiantes posgrados tuvieron cosas de aprender de voluntarios, conocer gente de la comunidad, de celebrar las fiestas y también ser voluntarios. Entonces, bueno, con eso yo lo voy a pasar a Elmira, pero antes de que lo haga, quería darle la bienvenida a Houston. Aquí tenemos una foto del downtown, que Houston es como unos 15 minutos que se puede llegar en un rail del centro downtown, y como le dije, parte del centro médico. Y luego, bueno, somos menos de una hora de la NASA que pueden venir, y usted ve esos estudiantes posgrado que están haciendo como el búho. Ese es como de la moscata de nosotros, de los búhos, como inteligencia, no sé qué. Entonces, bueno, con eso termino y no sé cómo salir. Daniel, aquí no estoy acostumbrada de esa plataforma. ¿Cómo salgo de aquí?
Okay, thank you. Okay, I hope you see my screen. You do? Okay. So I will be talking about caring for the well-being of international graduate students. I'm a manager and senior international advisor. I work mainly with graduate students. So my whole population is graduate students, and I'm here just to help them with their immigration issues, and at the same time helping them with their personal and mental issues as well. So, okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is happiness timeline and when issues start. As Adria already mentioned, that when students arrive here, we do orientation programs and check-in. So, and students arrive here with really high hopes and bright perspectives for the future, right? And new country, new city, new environment, everything looks so colorful, bright, and beautiful, right? And everyone around is new people, and they are all welcoming. You know, they hear welcome to RISE something like more than 100 times from faculty, from staff members, and from fellow students as well, right? So here I just put this culture shock curve that we call it like honeymoon period. And then as soon as the honeymoon period ends, reality kicks in. And then that's where the culture shock and all the other issues start. But what I usually tell to students is, yeah, honeymoon period, but get ready for some sort of culture shock. But at the same time, be patient, because that will pass. Because after something like in the end of the first semester, yeah, by the end of the first semester, you already feel that adjustment period starts. And by the end of the academic year, you are fully adopted and you feel almost like at home, right? So that is so yeah, I want to talk about issues then. What the common issues that I hear from students is, so from the very beginning, right? So new environment and new norms. But yeah, as I said in the beginning, it can be beautiful and bright, but then the issues start like, how can I address the faculty? How can I address my academic advisor, my peers, and the staff members? Or how can I make friends? Because all my friends are left back at home, right? And everything is new and it's so hard to navigate, like new healthcare system. Majority of our students come from socialized medical care. And now they see the reality that, why do I have to pay so much for health insurance? And what does it give to me? And how can I find a doctor and all, everything, right? And also public transportation. Will I be able to use public transportation? And how good is the public transportation system? Or driver's license. Will I be able to drive with my driver's license from my country? Or do I have to apply for a driver's license? How am I going to get? So a lot, right? With driver's license then come traffic rules. All those issues at the same time happen when the student is still jet lagged. So we have students from all over the world, about like 114 countries. So we cover all continents. Our students come from all continents. And new norms of even alcohol use, drug use, because it's a little confusing here. It's allowed in some states to use drugs, but in some not. But at the same time, their visas are administered in the federal level, and then they would be punished on the federal level. So you see, whatever, so it is so scary, because whatever they might do not good may negatively affect their visa. So it's really stressful. And then comes, of course, academic requirements. Rice is a very competitive school, and academic requirements pressure is extremely high. So for that, yeah, new academic, even just from the very beginning, new academic class registration system. So how to register for classes, it was not like that in my country, right? So things like that. And also really high pressure to perform well. At the same time, financial stress may come, cost, and depending on family support and language difficulty, even if they have really good language skills, but it may be difficult to get used to different accents that different professors may have here, right? And different staff members may have. And we are in the South. Our Southern accent may be an issue as well. And also, at the same time, pressure. How am I going to be able to find an internship for the coming summer? And how am I going to find a job after I graduate? So all these are the issues that the students face, and the students come to discuss with me and try to navigate and try to figure out what to do, how to do. And then comes relationship with their academic advisor, with PI. How do I address my academic advisor? And can I trust my personal struggles with them? Or relationship with my advisor? How am I going to build? Is it going to work well, right? Because as we know, relationship with advisor can make or break their graduation and future career. So pressure to publish and tight deadlines, all of this, and strong, supportive, and positive mentoring relationships between graduate students and their advisors correlate significantly with less anxiety and depression. So I noticed a lot of students who really have very good relationships with their advisors, they seem to be more happy and more, how can I say, they're sure about their future. Like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to graduate well, things like that. Okay, and then with all those happening at the same time, the personal struggles like loss of connection or disconnection from their previous social support system, that their families are not here with them and their friends are back at home. So those come. And so stress from not being able to be, especially during this COVID, right? That stress from not being able to be with their family in the event of, I don't know, illness during COVID, right? And not being able to travel there, or even death of family member. And this whole pandemic that literally being stuck here in the US and not being able to go anywhere during the lockdown, right? And at the same time, not being able to travel home and just stay at home with the family. And in the event of natural disasters, also some natural disasters happening in their home country, and they may lose connection and they may not know what is happening there with the family. So things like that. And also now what I'm seeing is political conflicts.
No, o sea, es como que
okay, so and now that students from Ukraine experiencing political conflicts, and even students, from Russia also, trying to figure out what to do, how to do, because their finances are suffering too, and also just emotional stress, right? And I also, as I mentioned, that that friends are left at home and not being able to make new friends, and finding it hard to expand social and professional connections here. So these are the common things that I hear a lot from students. And what is my role as an international advisor? Just, be available here to meet with them and to listen to their concerns and make students feel understood and feel heard, and let them know that they are not the only ones experiencing that it's not abnormal, it's normal, and then good times will come. The main thing is to just be patient and to try to find out ways. And you know, and also I try to offer problem solving, you know, together with them. How about doing this, or how about doing that? And like, you know, offering them and checking for possible solutions on what to do. And when I see clearly that there can be some help from the other offices on campus, that, you know, true specialists in case of mental health, for example, right? So like graduate and postdoctoral studies, they have student support manager who is really helpful, not only for mental health, but anything, academic struggles, anything. So I work very closely with that manager, and yeah, we usually try to figure out what could be the best solution for the student. And also, Rice's Student Wellbeing Office and Rice Counseling Center. So today Agnes Ho is here from the Wellbeing Office. That they are amazing, and they are always there to help the students with their mental health. And today I heard that imposter syndrome was mentioned a few times. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's pretty normal that I hear from students, like everyone seems to know what they're doing and I don't know what's going on. Or what if everyone finds out that I'm a fraud? I feel sometimes like I don't know the subject, things like that, you know, or I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this, and people are going to find out that I'm not good enough. So things like that. So as for the faculty, and you know, faculty know that better, but yes, we all should always be aware of imposter syndrome. It's real and it exists. So, but everyone feels like an imposter sometimes, and it's okay. That is what I tell the students when I meet them. And also, yeah, okay. Then, yeah, as I said, that I try to offer them some advice and also some possible solutions to the problem, right? And also one thing that I stress to them while talking with them is time management, because time flies, and I advise them that be disciplined and don't waste your time, and organize and plan how to divide your time between specific activities. Because yeah, I love this phrase from this mindtools.com. I recommend you can visit and check a lot of their materials. So what they say is good time management enables you to work smarter and not harder, right? That, and also yeah, because there is no time to waste that time, right? So it's very important to be disciplined. And also, there, as I mentioned, that big concern among students is, am I going to be able to find an internship in the summer? Or am I going to find a job? Then yeah, if student wastes time, if the job market comes and they are not ready, then they will suffer. So, you know, they cannot be more motivated than finding a job, for example, right? And yeah, and also, yeah, balancing between hard work and personal time, leisure time. I advise them to visit the wellness center at Rice. So we have, wellness center has amazing gym, tennis courts, swimming pools, and all that. So that would really help them, right? Okay, and it can be very intimidating for the student, for any student, right? Domestic students even, to start a new program, but especially if student is international in our cases, then they can struggle to adjust to all the previous things that I mentioned. So I recommend them not to succumb to imposter syndrome. because everybody experiences this, but they should always remember that if they are here, that's for a reason, because Rice is a highly competitive place, and so if Rice chose them, then yeah, they are good enough. They are absolutely smart enough, right, to be here. So I recommend them just to try to accept the difficulties at the beginning and just never be afraid of seeking for help, because the campus is the friendliest and everyone just tries to help them whenever they ask, right? So if you don't ask, you don't get. So that is the thing. And but yeah, there must be some moments in life that feeling like a failure. It's absolutely normal, and at least deep frustration, you know, things happen, but it's just the marathon of the doctoral research, or just don't let your emotions get to you, right? So, and also I advise them to try to find some close friends, and it's okay if those new friends are thousands of miles away from your home, but those friends are from your country, and those people speak the same language with you, from the same cultural background. It's absolutely okay. Even though I always recommend international students try to find friends from the US and from other countries, from other cultures, so that it could expand their horizon, it could expand their understanding of the world. Yeah, and also, yeah, I hear students like, oh, my article was rejected by a famous journal again. That's okay. So if it got rejected, you cannot imagine even well-known professors that you know, they got that too. They still get their articles rejected, though it's absolutely a normal thing. So those things really help them to navigate and to try to not to stress themselves too much. And about the mental health help, I won't talk much because I know Agnes, no one can speak better than Agnes. Agnes is the profi expert in that field. So international students, but what I notice is that international students are sometimes hesitant about seeking help for their mental health concerns, because as we know, that attitudes towards mental illness vary among individuals, not only cultural, right, but at the same time, cultural levels, ethnicities, families, and different countries. And especially that stigma against mental illness, right, may come from their personal, social, or family beliefs. But as Rice constantly, Agnes' office, and Rice constantly educates them about mental health, and you hear sometimes from students saying, wow, in my country, mental health is like, yeah, it's like a taboo you cannot talk about, but they are happy that actually I can talk about it and now I feel better. So yeah, these are the things that I wanted to talk today, and so muchas gracias.
It is my honor to be here, and I know this is a great opportunity and that we learn from each other. And mi español is a little bit poquito. So if you don't mind, I would love to present the information in English, and I will also share all the information, my slide, with you after the presentation. And I look forward to answering your questions at the end of the presentation. So feel free to drop down your questions, and we'd love to, talk more. So my name is Agnes Ho. I am a licensed social worker here in Texas, in the US. I'm from Hong Kong. So I was born and raised in Hong Kong, and then I came to the US for my graduate program. And here at Rice, I am serving as the director of the Student Wellbeing Office. So although my training background is I used to do a lot of individual and family counselings with teenagers and also young adults, but here at Rice, I am not doing clinical counseling, and I will tell you why in a second. So in the student well-being office, we do have like two big components that we do. First of all, we do what we call well-being advising. In some other university, you will hear about like case management service. So basically, we are able to meet with student one-on-one. All of our well-being advisor are trained therapists or like counselor. So we do have the clinical background to be able to work with students, identify their needs, especially in the mental health area. And at the same time, help them to navigate resources, whether or not on campus or off campus. And then another big component that we do is we do a lot of community education outreach. We offer a lot of psychoeducational programming on campus. So this is my 10th year working at RISE. And I remember when I first started, there's a lot of stigma about accessing mental health services on campus. You would hear students may say, if I go to, the counseling center and get help, and if I mention about my suicidal ideation or any like thought about like hurting myself, I would not be able to continue in my program. I would not be able to even like come back, on campus. I would need to be in the hospital and I would need to go home right away. So there were a lot of fears and like stigma around like accessing the mental health services and even mental health, right? The term, I believe, in a lot of our culture, even in the US, a huge stigma about just the word mental health. So that's the reason why about like 9 years ago, we do a little like restructuring and reorganization on our campus. We do have a wonderful counseling center on campus that has been years serving students by providing confidential counseling and assessment. But of course, with the law, HIPAA, right? All the licensed mental health professionals here in the US need to comply with the law HIPAA. So basically, right, keep the client information very much like confidential, which we understand the reason why and we respect students like confidential and private information. But then we also recognize, right, it is very difficult for university to be able to help the student without knowing anything about, the student's concern. So that's the reason why about 9 years ago, we developed a program which is called Student Wellbeing Office, which is the office that I'm overseeing right now. So we hired a lot of licensed social workers and also licensed professional counselors, which we do have the training background, understanding mental health. But at the same time, we're not doing clinical counseling on campus. So we're not technically using our license to do the work, but it gives us a lot of flexibility, be able to fill in the gap and bridging the information, with the student and for the student. So for example, if there's a mental health concern, yes, the counseling center may not be able to, tell us, anything or tell the deans or the program director anything about the concern. But then we as a case manager will be able to intervene the situation like a middleman, right? Like help the student and understand what exactly going on. And we will only release the information to, people who need to know. And we can also explain to the student what happened right there and inform the student, right? If we really need to inform, the program director or the deans about a certain issue, what happened, right? And also inform the student about the academic policy in place. The whole idea is to, offer more support for students and also help them to navigate the resources together, and at the same time be able to fill in all these like gap between different offices, between different departments, and also the students and different providers for the students. So that's why we use the term well-being, because like well-being is a good thing, right? We all need well-being. In a simple way to describe well-being is like we all need a positive emotions. We need to learn how to have those like positive emotions. And when we are not feeling well, how are we going to manage it? So the term well-being become very, very trendy on our campus. And honestly, I think like in the past decade, we also hear a lot of other universities have these terms around on campus, and they also name their office as a well-being office there on their campus, and they contact us and also ask us how we operate, on our campus too. So over the years, I think like we develop a very good relationship in the community as well as students, to lower the threshold for students to access mental health services. And that when they see us, because we're around campus, we go to events, when they see us as a normal person, and they would love to talk to us. And when they need to access more mental health, interventions, they would feel more comfortable and feel safe to do that. So that's the reason why, we have this like well-being office in place about like 9 years ago, and we work very, very closely with the Rice Counseling Center since then. So what we've seen like among our graduate student population is there's a wide range of well-being concerns that we've seen. It's just like a wide spectrum, right? From our graduate student will come in and talk about some of the behaviors that they concern, maybe like they have lack of motivation, they may feel very tired, exhausted, and in a pandemic, seems like everyone feel very anxious. That could be a normal anxiety, right? A healthy anxiety, but then it could be an anxiety that impacts our daily functioning. So we can talk about come up plans in place. It could be like a time management issue. Some of other common concerns among graduate student that we hear is maybe having a communication concern or relationship concerns. That includes like relationship with the advisor or PI in the department. So we talk about like strategies, right? Sometimes we do role play, how to bring up a critical conversation, to talk to your PI or advisor. Of course, the spectrum could be like, to the extent a little bit more extreme that we've seen graduate student may have, some functioning, right? Like that may have impact on their daily life functioning level. They may have missed the deadlines or skip, meetings, and to the extent maybe their body and mind just shut down, and you've seen like some of the depressive symptoms kind of kicked in, may not be able to wake up, right? Stay in the room, in the bed, like all days long for days and weeks. Sometimes like we may also hear students may have some tendency to avoid, right, to talk to people, even though the friends or the family may worry about them. They may not respond to emails or any phone calls. To the extent, some students may disclose they may have like safety concern. So that would include like self-harm behavior, and also suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation. So again, there's a wide spectrum of stress symptoms or mental health or well-being, behavioral concerns that we've seen among our student body. Of course, when we intervene the situation, we also want to know what happened, right? Just like this graphic, like an iceberg, some of the behaviors that we obviously could see, could tell, right? People around the student could even like come to us and tell us about their concerns. So when we reach out to the student, by the time when we are able to talk to them, of course, we will need to ask a little bit more question. What's going on, right? What are the roots of the issue? What are the underlying issue? So very often, as a social worker, we are very used to talk about feelings. It's very common, right? Like students may have all these like emotions going on in their life, but then they don't know how to express it. Some of the culture that, we know is like you cannot talk about your negative emotions because, it may show your weakness to people. And as a PhD student, right, as a graduate student, you don't want to let people know you're not capable to do that, especially like Dr. Baker and Elmira just talk about imposter syndrome, right? A lot of students, including ourselves, right, we will think we are not good enough. Seems like everyone is very happy. Seems like, all the students in my department are doing so well, and I'm the only one is struggling right now. So they may feel very vulnerable, right, at that point, and that will become a barrier for them to reach out. But when we, start to ask about and tell them about, hey, it's okay and you have permission to feel vulnerable, to be vulnerable, and that's the moment that would be very powerful for them to learn about, okay, that's very important for me to, get help and connect with resources. There are some other underlying behavior that we've seen are including our students' values and beliefs may be different than other people, especially when they talk to their advisor or PI or other students in the department. Maybe sometimes, right, their idea may get turned down. The research they have been doing that may have not get the results that they want, and sometimes, right, their values and beliefs may even get challenged, and that could be really, really difficult for them. And sometimes we see a lot of adjustment issue, especially in a pandemic, right? We have done a lot of virtual meetings, and now we're back fully in person on campus, and some students are still adjusting the issue. We also seen a lot of grief and loss in the pandemic, right? We've witnessed a lot of death because of COVID, or worry about family health and the safety. When we talk about grief and loss, we also talk about any grief and loss in a relationship. That includes in a breakup relationship, that includes in a friendship, that you no longer be able to have that very close intimate relationship with others. That would be also one of the reasons why students are struggling. Trauma, I think we have to talk about trauma way more right now these days. When we talk about trauma, it's not only about natural disaster or earthquake or war, right? It also, could be day-to-day life issue that includes domestic violence, that includes any abusive or violence relationship, that also includes any racial trauma that we have experienced a lot, in our world right now. So, or to, a car accident, or sometimes you are a witness of someone who are in a very dangerous safety concern, that also could create a lot of traumatic stress on our students. And our brain will react on it. Sometimes students may not even recognize this is a trauma reaction. They might not even know this is a trauma reaction or remember, what type of trauma they experienced. So we also spend a lot of time to help students to explore that, and a lot of psychoeducation go into that to learn about that. And of course, there's some pre-existing or even undiagnosed physical health or mental health issue can also contributing to the concerning mental health or well-being behavior that we've seen. So it is our job, to help students to figure it out together. And of course, when we talk about all these issues, sometimes we may have a question, right? What is normal and what is not normal, to the point that we need to get the student to get more support and help. So if we look at the definition of mental health, right? Mental health is something that we all need to have and to maintain, because this is something that, can help us to cope in different situations. Even if we don't feel well, right? But if we are able to manage it and handle any life challenges, any stressors that we have, and have a meaningful relationships and make sound decisions, we may not need to worry too much about our mental health, because we know we're in a good state of mind to manage a lot of different mental health related issue or any life challenge issue. But when our mental health get to a point that we know our thinking and our mood and our behavior got impact, to the extent our daily life functioning may get an impact on that. That includes our basic needs, especially if your students haven't been eating or eating too much, or haven't been sleeping or sleeping too much, right? To the extent, right, to the extreme, and may not see a student for not only a day or two, but maybe in weeks. That's the point that maybe the student is struggling, and maybe there may some mental health conditions or illness that we may not even know, or student that may not even know about, that we need to get the student to get some more evaluation and assessment and figure out like what happened. There may be some underlying mental health concerns that we need to help the student to figure it out. And at that point, it's very important, right, to connect to the student with the mental health professional to do some more evaluation. So I pulled up a study by the American College Health Association. Every semester, they've conducted a national college health assessment with a lot of different universities in the US. So I put up this latest data in fall semester 2021. They conducted survey in 41 universities, including Rice University. So this is a more like a national data that I show you right here. The top 5 mental health conditions that are reported among the graduate and professional students in the US. So as you can tell, these are the top 5 mental health conditions, and not a surprise, anxiety and depressions are always the top 2 mental health conditions that we've seen. And I would say in the last decade, the percentage of students reported in these 2, in particular anxiety and depression, have been increasing significantly. And it is also very common for you to hear about like anxiety and depression can go hand in hand. Students could diagnose both these 2 diagnoses at the same time. Sometimes could be anxiety more dominant. Sometimes the depression could be more dominant. And also some students may have some other mental health conditions such as ADHD, postpartum depression, PTSD. Again, I just mentioned about the trauma, impact, right? The trauma reaction that we've seen on students, insomnia, like a lot of like sleeping concern. There are also some other mental health conditions may not be, have a high percentage, but we've also seen like more students report that they have like OCD that could, also because of the anxiety-driven behavior. And also a lot of students struggle with food, with eating disorder. So those are the more common mental health conditions that we've seen among students, among the graduate students. So these are some of the signs that you may have noticed, right, when students are not feeling mentally well. But keep that in mind, right? We don't expect you to be the therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist here, that you need to diagnose or investigate, right? What exactly, right? All these like signs or mental health. But this is a very helpful checkpoint, right? Checklist for you to consider. How could I know if student may have suffered some mental health conditions? And I often call these like a triangle, right? These are the 3 things that we need to pay attention. Our cognitive thought, the way that we think, and then also our emotion, right? How we feel, and then our action, the behavior that we act on it or you've seen on student. So let me give you an example. A lot of our students, right, especially graduate students, they sign up for the program. They get a spot in your university, right? They are very smart. They are very capable. And in their mind, they know they are capable and they want to do a very good job in their research. And they have all these goals that they want to achieve. I'm sure like a lot of students have that very clear in their mind. They want to do a good work. But some way, somehow, right, when students struggle with, let's say, for example, depression, they have a hard time to connect their cognitive thoughts with their action together. They really want to do a good job. But then some way, somehow, they won't be able to wake up. They stay in their bed all day long. And then they know this is not what they like to do. They hate it. They don't like this behavior. And then that makes them feel very guilty, and there's a lot of shame into that. So these all three things, right? These all three, points hasn't been connected with each other. And that makes the student even go into the depressive symptom, the cycle of it. And then if there's no intervention, right, the student will get into the loop. Sometimes I describe it as a dark hole to loop in that dark spot. So the job, to help the student is basically there's a lot of different approach to help student, and some of it you may heard about, like cognitive behavioral therapy, to help student to connect these three things together, right? That connect their thoughts, that really want to do a good job, and how that, connected with the behavior, so it really reflect on what they really want to do, and then ultimately, right, they feel better about that. So those are the, couple different examples that I just gave, but as you could tell, different students may react very differently. But, if your student mentioned to you or you observed, their behavior, any of these behaviors, definitely, reach out to them and let them know you are concerned of them. Of course, if it is becomes a safety concern, if students have any suicide ideation or plan or without a plan, and even an attempt, we definitely want to save their life. We really want to get them emergency help right there. So what you can do to help the student, I know sometimes it's really hard, right, to find the right word, and you may afraid, you will talk about the wrong thing. If I ask the student if they have safety concern, it may give them an idea, right, that they may really want to kill themselves. Well, all of those are myths. And what we found, and also based on research, is sometimes even students in a very desperate position, they actually need help. They actually want someone, right, to offer support, offer hope. They may not want all the solutions right away, but it definitely very helpful, right, to listen to them and be non-judgmental. Even they may not, show up in your class or show up in your research, project, for weeks, even though you get very frustrated with the student. But it's very important in the first step to be empathetic, right, to really give the permission for students to let you know and share about the concern. You may want to say something like, yeah, I've been really, really concerned about you because I haven't seen you, in the last week or so. I know this is not very normal. Can you tell me more about that? Seems like you're struggling. Seems like you mentioned about hopelessness. I would love to offer help and support and help you to connect with resources. So this is very powerful to open the dialogue and let the student to know there's hope. There's different ways to route, to help them to navigate their struggles right there. And in the last couple years, especially in a pandemic, what we found is very helpful. There's a couple different ways, different practices that I've been shared with a lot of faculty members in our university and even other universities. And again, you don't need to be a therapist to use this approach. Anyone can use this. The first one that I would like to share with you today is trauma-informed practice. There's tons of research about trauma-informed practice. In a simple way, to say that when we concern about a student, and if we may know, there may be some trauma-related issue involved, or even it may not, it's very important to not ask the student, what's wrong with you? But instead, we want to start the conversation by saying, what has happened to you? And again, this is a very good way to open the conversation and dialogue, to invite the student to tell you more what's going on. And this is it's more for us, as a faculty member or staff member, to be aware of, to be sensitive to, and also to be informed about, well, student may have a lot going on. We don't know exactly what happened, but we are here, we are being present, we are being very non-judgmental, right, to welcome the student, to invite the student to talk more about that. And there's another practice that I've also talked a lot is self-compassion practice. And the research that I use a lot is by Dr. Kristen Neff. She's a professor at University of Texas in Austin. And she does a lot of like self-compassion practice in the last 2 decades. So basically there's like 3 elements that, we can keep that in mind when we talk to students, especially when they struggle with their well-being or mental health. It's important to remind them about mindfulness, to bring them back in the present and here and now moment, and remind them about like things that they can control. It may not necessarily about their research, it may not necessarily about their work, right? It's about, things that they can control in the moment, including the 5 senses. Sometimes I do an exercise with students as simple as, can you tell me about 5 things that you can see right now? 4 things that you can hear, you can listen. 3 things that maybe you can taste, including a glass of cold water, right? Or a piece of chocolate. Or like 2 things that maybe you can touch, including yourself, right? Important to have a self-touch or have a little pat on your shoulder. And then 1 people that you feel comfortable and trust to talk to. So again, bring the student back in the moment, that help them to gain back that control and retrain the brain, to learn about, wow, I do have control, may not everything, but at least myself right here. And then another element is about finding common humanity. So here at RISE, we do have a well-being peer group specifically for graduate students, and it's almost equivalent to like a peer resources or peer counselor. So we train a group of graduate students to work with their peers, and they are very much aware of the resources on campus and also in the community. They learn about basic listening skill, reflective listening, and also how to help students, right? Like persuade them to get some more help. And that's the idea, right? It's important to let the student know they are not alone. Even their peers, right? Some of them, they are very open to talk about their struggle too. So we want them to know you're not the only one is struggling, and there's also people to help you and help you to figure out and walk you together to find your village. And then the last element about self-compassion is about self-kindness. In a simple term, it's very important to remind students, right? I know you are very self-driven, I know, but at the same time, you're struggling right now. You may not be able to act on what you really want to do, and have a lot of self-criticism and self-judgment, self-doubt in you right now. But try to, think about it in another way. If your friends, if your loved one in the same situation, what would you tell your friend? You would probably say something very encouraging, try to, offer your support and care to your friend. You will probably say something, you're not lazy, you're not dumb, you worth, right, to be in the program. I know it's a hard time for you, let's go for a walk. So you would say something very encouraging like this. But very often when we are struggle, when our students are struggle, they would not be able to talk to themselves like this. So self-kindness in particular when students are struggling is a very, very important tool for them to reframe the way that they think in their mind, so that they also, offer hope and offer support, for themselves as well. So I put, these 2 practice and a lot of references in my last slide. I would encourage you to check out Dr. Neff's website, and also SAMHSA has tons of information about trauma-informed practice that you may want to take a look. And lastly, I would love to touch on a little bit about our approach here at RISE, especially when students struggle to the extreme. There may be some safety concern, or the student may not, show up for weeks. No one really know what exactly happened on the students, and that we may need to contact the campus police and do a welfare check to check on students. So those are a little bit more extreme cases. Well, the good thing is we're not doing it by our own, or we're the only office to do that. The deans will need to deal with it on themselves, or the department they don't really need to do it on themselves. So we created a team of support we called Consultation Assessment Team, CAT team, here at RISE. Some other campuses, you may hear they call BIT, B-I-T, which is Behavioral Intervention Team, and or some other terms. And your campus can also may have one, or may have, may create another name. So the idea is it's a multidisciplinary team that include the dean's office, and also, the counseling center, our office, case management office. We also invited the police representative there, as well as attorney, general counsel in there, judicial program who in charge of student behavioral issue, as well as the crisis management team there. And we meet once a week during the academic year to reveal and discuss, all the critical cases, which I listed, some of the examples right here. This is very, very important because sometimes there's some blind spot that we may not know. So it's very helpful to have, different representatives of different offices to be there. And anyone can refer cases, right, to CAT, to our consultation and assessment team. Let's say if this is an international student, we work very closely with Dr. Baker's office in the international student office, or if there's like a department, right, maybe like a student from a particular department, we also work with the dean or their staff member representative, from that particular department. So the approach that we use is definitely there's like different approach, but I would love to share with you. I'm not going to talk about this in details because this is actually a very good kind of like a guide developed by the National Association for Behavioral Intervention and Threat Assessment. This is like in particular, helpful when we concern about a student's not only like emotional or mental health concern, but to the extent if there's like a safety or even like a violence, not to the student themselves, but if it is a community violence concern, this is a really helpful guide, right, to help us to know how critical the issue is. If this is mild, that we may, our office can check in with the student, or moderate or elevated to a level that we, maybe the dean may need to mandate a student to do a thorough psychological assessment to have a better picture of, what's going on, or to the very critical situation that maybe the police may need to involve and escort the student to the hospital. Like that would be very helpful for us to know, right, what kind of intervention that we will need to do. So I would encourage you all to check out, the website, which I listed right here. And NABIDA offer a lot of trainings for a lot of folks in the higher educational field. So definitely highly recommend your university, to check it out. So like what I said, here's some of the link and also references that I put it here. There's a lot of resources in place, and I'm also available if you would like to talk more about what we do here at RISE. I'm happy to share, more of our approach and information with you. And I just put out I will put my contact information one more time in my chat box. So feel free to email me and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for having me to be here.